I've got the distinct honor today to introduce two amazing gentlemen. First is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, Artis Stevens, and a man that needs no introduction, the founder, chairman, and CEO of Operation Hope, John Hope Bryant. So welcome. We'll ad-lib here, 1 minute. Well, hopefully everyone got a good night's rest, and you're ready to go. I see everybody's got breakfast. What can I talk about today? The weather's not too good, but hopefully you're all staying here at the hotel and staying out of the rain. And did everybody enjoy Deborah Cox last night? Did everybody stay? She was fabulous, fantastic. Always love the entertainment here. And without further ado, our founder, chairman, and CEO, John Hope Bryant, and our CEO, Artis Stevens. And you better be louder than that for John to get on stage, because he'll call you out.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good time in the ATL. I'm so sorry for anybody who had problems. If you were part of the 1,000 people who couldn't get in last night, my apologies for that. We can't control fire marshals and traffic out in the street. But somebody told me, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes just a little longer. But it is positive that so many people see this as a gateway for hope at this time in our country. And you are the leaders that are making all this happen, from civil rights to civil rights, from the streets to the suites. This is what I call the third reconstruction. I'm gonna slow that down and say it again. I think we're in, Christy over there is a real star. That's the highest ranking black woman at Wells Fargo. That's a bad sister. You gotta meet her. We are in my opinion, the third reconstruction. And this gentleman is key in what he's doing to that work. So just to make this really crisp, in the first reconstruction in this country, it literally was about freedom. And it was inspiring about each of these periods. It was black and white working together. Ultimately, it was Republican and Democrat working together. What's consistent about all three of these reconstructions, Artists, is that whether you're black, white, red, brown, or yellow, ultimately came around to green. Mm-hmm. It was about economics. Yep. But the first reconstruction, you had Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, and that was about freedom and trying to get from the farms to a factory or a job. We'll be nice and call them farms. And then the second reconstruction in the 20th century was really about access. And it really was just trying to access the polling booth, trying to access the facility, the right to vote, an opportunity, the right to cash a check. And then the third reconstruction is really, I think, about economics and opportunity and ownership. And the third reconstruction is also unique because each one of these is a new constituency, by the way. Yep. Trying to build a new constituency. And the third one, I think, all these are marked by disruptive periods. And we had a disruptive period from 2020 to 2020, I think, 5. And I think you're gonna see from 2025 to 2035, the opportunity to reshape America. That's, I think, what we have in front of us. And so it's appropriate as we highlight institutions and leaders who can be part of that reshaping, that we focus on you. So Artis is a Georgia boy, youngest of 8 children, went to school here, went to university here, the son and grandson of pastors, is that right?
That's right.
And this is his new ministry. Artis is a good man. We were on the same list together for Forbes Black 50 last year. He took this job as CEO in 2021. He is the first person of color to be CEO. It's the first black man to be CEO. It's my conference. I can say what I want. To be CEO of this 120-year-old institution. They have mentored 6 million young people nationwide. Yes. They have 20 million alumni. Many of you here might be alumni. They have a goal of 10 million in 10 years to mentor 10 million young people over the next 10 years. In order to do that, they're going to need you. Now, why is that important? Before I turn to Artis, who's the star of today's discussion. And by the way, to my team, if you don't put a timer down here, I will wear this thing out. We'll be here all day. Somebody better put a timer up and tell me when to stop talking. I'm trying to be a good boy, but it says 0, 0, 0. Artis is at this unique intersection of two different worlds. We have this K-shaped economy, and this is proof it's not about race. I'm at the top of the K economically. I've gone from the bottom net worth and income in this country and zip code to the top 0.1%. But the growth of this economy and the stability is the bottom K. It's the middle and the bottom. That's what's driving the biggest economy on the planet. And if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. And the opposite is also true. So you are who you hang around. You are what your influences are. There's an old Southern saying, no matter how much I love you, my son or my daughter, if I don't have wisdom, all I can give you is my own ignorance. I'm gonna say that again slowly. No matter how much I love you, my son or my daughter, if I don't have wisdom, all I can give you is my own ignorance. And so out of love, we pass down bad habits from generation to generation. And it's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. So this, most of you learned about capitalism and free enterprise and ownership sitting at your mom and dad's knee, sitting at the table, watching them read the Wall Street Journal, watching them look at the news and ear hustling if you're the caddy on the golf course, ear hustling about what people are talking about in business. But if you come from communities that we come from, you don't see that. And to illustrate this one last time about how important this is, there's a group of poor whites that made it out with a bad business plan. There's a group of poor blacks and browns that are still stuck in a bad business plan. Here's an example. Where did NASCAR come from? President of NASCAR is on my board, by the way, Steve Phelps. Where did NASCAR come from? Moonshine running in the Appalachian Mountains. Poor whites running from the police as they're trying to get their product to market. They realized it wouldn't last. And so they stopped that part and then realized they're good at driving. And then they would watch each other's driving techniques, and then they would drive on the beach, and they would drive on a field, and they would drive in a circle, and then somebody came with the idea of charging a fee, and they start working as a team and start working. And by the way, this group that worked together are now billionaires. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, don't take my word for it. Go look at the Franz family and a few of the families that still run NASCAR today, drivers and family. It's the same families from 3 generations ago. What's a drug dealer? An illegal, unethical entrepreneur. They're really smart people with a horrible business plan. They understand import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, logistics. What have I missed? Research, HR. What's a gang leader or a frustrated union organizer? These are brilliant people with a bad business plan and no role model. Where would you be unless somebody touched you and said, you have talent? Keith, where would you be? Somebody helped you, right, Keith? Everybody was helped by somebody. So we should want to support this man in every way possible, because literally he's leading the freedom army, the peaceful army for good. Artis, welcome to Hope Global Forum.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you very much.
What drives you? I think I know, but what drives you? What have you found to be your biggest compliment or support in doing this work? And what has been your biggest frustration or hindrance keeping you from achieving this work since you've been CEO? Be as blunt as you like.
Yeah, well, let me start first by, for many of you haven't been to the A, welcome to the A. Let me first say that, and good morning to everyone.
By the way, if you're not black, that means Atlanta.
That's right,
welcome.
That's right. Thank you for
I'll translate for you.
Thank you for my translation there.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, I'm gonna always sing your accolades, my brother, but it's actually connected to your question, right? Part of what drives me. You know, I've watched you from afar. Like many of you may not know, but John and I actually met this year. And we didn't know each other, but he's been a mentor for me for much longer, right? And the whole point of that is that the idea of mentorship doesn't mean that you have to be connected with someone, right? Mm-hmm. You can be a mentor from afar, right? And he's modeled a way in terms of creating a path and creating the idea of economic opportunity here in this country for years and setting a legacy. So for leaders like myself, being able to look at you, to model you, to think about the way that you think about things has been an inspiration to me. So that when we finally did have a chance to meet in person, the mentorship and the relationship was already there, right? And it was authentic and natural, and it was connected. And for me, that's what's empowering, right? You mentioned the story of my dad, and I tell this story all the time, that when I was growing up, and I grew up in a small town, not too far from here, it was 4.5 hours, called Brunswick, Georgia. Yeah. Some of you may have heard of it. But I grew up, and yeah, we didn't have a lot of resources, didn't have a lot of means. But what my parents instilled in us is that we were rich in relationships, right? It was this idea. Some of y'all may have heard the auntie network, right? Anybody know that term? Some of y'all know that term. So I'll define that term for you. When I went away from my house, when I was a little kid, and I got in trouble, which may not happen, right? Several times. By the time I got home, my mom already knew about it.
That's right.
Because somebody picked up the phone.
That's right.
And called her.
That's right.
It was this idea that we took care of each other's children. It was this sense of a village and the sense of connectivity. So that was always ingrained in my DNA, ingrained in my family DNA, and the way that I was raised. My dad being a preacher, my granddad being a preacher. When I was 7 years old, everyone said I was gonna be a preacher just like them. So I went to my dad and I said, hey, am I gonna be a preacher just like you? And that's when my dad said something that I'll never forget, and it sort of guides me to your question. He said, son, everyone has their ministry in this world. You have to find yours. And it was this idea of empowerment through ministry. What drives me is ministry. It's purpose. It's the idea of finding what you're meant to do in this world, so that even when you face challenge, even when I was thinking I was going to the University of Georgia to play football and got injured in my junior year, got depressed, but I had a community, that village, that auntie network, who picked me up and said, you still have the same skills. The skills are still there. The same ones you applied on the field, you can apply towards your academic. And I still ended up going to UGA, it just went academically, right? Same skills when I graduated college and I thought I was going to law school. And I took a detour and I went and did an interview in a public housing community. And the guy there, who became a longtime mentor of mine, took me to a playground and said, what do I know about this playground? And I looked at him and I laughed. And I said, this is a playground that I played in as a kid. He said, you can always go to law school, but you can't always come back home and transform your community. And that community transformed me. And it's the same message of ministry that over 20 to 25, 30 years of what I've been building, of working in youth empowerment, my ministry in this world, that in 2020, when everything was happening, and we saw everything happen in this world, a pandemic, economic uncertainty, social injustices, that a name popped out at me. And it was the name that resonated with me more than any name, Ahmaud Arbery. How many know that name? Ahmaud Arbery was murdered on the streets of Brunswick, Georgia for being black, my hometown.
Yeah.
John, what brought me back to that place was this idea that I had to go home, that I had to re-engage in my ministry. And it wasn't going home physically. It was going home in a sense of really understanding what my purpose in my ministry in this world. And it was about 3 weeks later that Big Brothers Big Sisters reached out to me, right? And in this organization, in this mission, I saw my ministry. I saw it in the kids. I saw it in the people that looked like me. I saw it in the idea and the mission of what this organization, what this ministry is intended to do. So as I lead in this organization, it is full circle. So it's the idea, and it's not just me, it's everyone sitting in this room, that we are endowed and endued with a ministry that we are all serving in purpose. The key is what you just said. How do we collectively come together to create that village that helps to raise all of us? And we do it by raising young people and empowering them. So that's the thing that drives me. That's what gives me courage. That what gives me focus and gives me vision to drive in this organization. And what I'll tell you as I lead and I'm navigating, what challenges me the most is sometimes the things that we don't see that's right here in front of us. We have 10 million kids in this country that lack access to positive mentors in their lives, right?
At least 10 million.
At least 10 million. But here's the way sometimes that we look at that. We look at 10 million kids and we think about young people, which we should think about how we help young people and how we support them and how we serve and how we create impact in their lives. But I want to change the equation on that, because when we think about the idea of supporting and serving young people as only what we do for them, we're losing what the real equation here. Because they are a solution for what ails our country.
Of course.
Right. And if we think about it in that model, that all of this incredible potential, because talent's everywhere.
Yep.
Opportunity is not.
Yep.
If we really look at this as the idea about how do we think about mentorship as a solution, that when your company invests in mentorship, you're not just serving an impacted community, which you are, but you're building a talent pipeline that's incredible. We're doing it today and we're scaling it. You're also ensuring that your employees already have a stronger morale and much more engaged in your companies, so that now you have stronger retention, you have more people. You're also ensuring that your business proposition is one that is of incredible value, because you've invested in a way that truly embodies your service and what your service and value proposition to the larger community and to our country as well. So that's the way that I've led, that's the way that I'm looking, that's the way I go into every conversation. I don't walk into any room with a partner, with a company, and just talk about ourselves as a charity.
Good.
I say we're a solution.
You're making a business case.
Because that's what it is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So let's dig into that for a minute. I love the way you're leading this and seeing this. As you were talking, the phrase hit me that young people are the bench strength for the playoff games of the rest of our lives. But if you look at young people, we farm club them for football, basketball, baseball. In fact, you just honored a couple of my friends who are Boys and Girls Clubs alumni, Roger Goodell. What was your other honoree this 2 weeks, it was a month ago?
Yeah, so we had Roger, NFL commissioner, Bob Pittman,
Yep.
president of iHeartMedia.
Both friends.
By the way, my board member, Tony Coles, right there, president of the Black Information Network.
Tony's a great guy.
Yeah, and top executive at iHeartMedia,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's bringing those types of leaders together to elevate, right, that story.
So if we're farm clubbing football, baseball, basketball, football, and in Canada it'll be hockey, why aren't we farm clubbing AI talent, HR talent, tech talent, coding talent, engineering talent, management talent, real estate talent, like the things that's driving the GDP for this country?
Yeah.
We just leave it to chance. Somehow in high school or college, in college, somehow supposedly everybody just sort of figures it out. I don't think that's the way it works. That's why I intentionally went to Keith here in the audience as a white male. You are white, right, Keith? You are pretty cool. I made you an honorary black man, so I don't know. You cross over. But I picked on him because I wanted to confirm that even a white man in this country with all his privileges needs and has gotten help from somebody. Roger Goodell told me he got help from somebody. Jamie Dimon, friend of mine, was helped by the then chairman of Citigroup. And then Jamie Dimon mentored, quotation marks, a friend of mine named Charlie Scharf.
Yeah.
And Charlie Scharf is now CEO of Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that Charlie is mentoring right now who he's priming for some senior role. They don't call it mentorship. When I was with Jim Wells, who was the chairman CEO of SunTrust, there was a guy to his right, didn't say much, quiet in the background. That guy was Bill Rogers. Bill Rogers was introduced to me at a lunch with Jim Wells. I thought it was a casual lunch. It was a setup. Hey, if I'm leaving, he didn't tell me, but within a year he would plan to transition. Here's the new guy. Mm-hmm. He didn't say here's the new guy, but I had to figure that out. So I had a nurture relationship with Bill Rogers. Well, now Bill Rogers is CEO of Truist, which is the company that took over from the precursor for SunTrust. And Bill's a great guy. He's on my board, and we've done great things together. But if you look around, all these folks are picking somebody. They are nurturing somebody. No one got a job in here off the internet. Can I get an amen? You didn't fill out an application.
That's right.
Somebody put their arm around you and said, you know, I think you can do this job. Yes or no? I think you can do this. What do you think? They had a relationship with you.
That's right.
We need that relationship capital. Farm clubbing, relationship capital that leads to talent, and it takes talent, leads to opportunity. That's what you're doing. You're making a business case for the growth of a nation, because all this comes from young people.
Think about this. You're absolutely right. And think about this, right? And you talked about we've all been mentored in some way, or mentored someone else, right? And if you think about, even from the very beginning of time, right? The idea of us exchanging, passing down stories, culture, is mentorship. The idea and the goal is, how do we harness it, right? How do we harness it and ensure, you mentioned the word, you said a word that to me that just resonated, access, right? Because so much of what we talk about and so much of the world today is about who has access. Who has access to relationships, connections, right? The types of opportunities that we're talking about. When we went through the pandemic, a couple of things happened for us, and we saw some really powerful insights. One of the most important insights for all the young people that we serve across the country. So we serve 5,000 communities. So we have scale. We have 120 years worth of data.
Slow that down. How many communities again?
5,000.
How many states?
All 50 states, right? All 50 states, 5,000.
You want a national platform partner, here you go.
So you think about that, 120 years of data, outcome, research, impact that we're able to deliver. And so, but here's what we were finding out. So something interesting was happening. We have traditionally served kids 5 to 18 for over a century. Something was interesting going on, though, that we start to see in our data. Our fastest growing population that we were starting to serve, fastest growing to this day, to 18 to 25 young adults. Why is that? Because kids were nearing graduation and they were asking a singular question: what do I do next? How do I navigate? How do I fill out the FAFSA? How do I understand about what skills, what opportunities, what jobs out there? How do I even do an interview? How do I understand financial stability, which, by the way, is one of the number one things that kids are asking us today about financial stability. How do I think about financial empowerment? I don't know where to navigate and understand. So we started to respond. We responded, and our programs have grown. So our fastest growing programs today are now career mentorship programs.
That's beautiful.
Right? So what we do when we talk about being a solution is the idea of going back to that concept of village. It's saying, what's the proposition? We know that we have a talented workforce that's out there that you haven't tapped into yet, right? So yes, you may be talking to kids at college, which is great, but what about kids at high school? What about kids at middle school? What about even levels of exposure, of understanding what it means to be in a career or to have a family or to engage at the youngest age possible, because a young person may not be seeing that because of what their family structure, their lifestyle looks like. So what we said is, if we can be that bridge, we can help train kids with skills, development, opportunities to get them exposed, but we can also go to companies and say, we can help address your workforce and be a power player for your workforce. We can help engage your employees, which we're doing. So companies like right here in Atlanta, UPS, one of our biggest partners. And the reason why that works, shout out to UPS, but the reason why that works is because they are showing up in ways across the country with their employees at every level. So Carol is just as involved in our program as just as much as their driver is, right? Do y'all get the concept that if the concept is, hey, we have to take an investment, the investment is absolutely financial. It's also time. It's also expertise. UPS is helping us with logistics. They're taking their talent and saying, how do we expose kids to it? But how do we make our communities, our country better? Because if we can train that workforce, it helps their workforce, but it also helps our communities become stronger and better.
What was really funny, so by the way, Nikki Clifton, UPS, is also a great leader who actively mentors. She runs a foundation there. I went to look at my phone real quickly, and the text on my phone is Bill Rogers. Can't make this up. Whatever goes around comes around, and we're all actively nurturing relationships.
That's right.
And I want to broaden this conversation a little bit, then I want to tighten it up, and I'm going to do something because this is for us. This is an intimate group. I want to actually spend a few minutes on Q&A. If you have a question you want to ask Artis, let's throw it up. The number one group dying in America. Number one group. High school, uneducated, high school, white men. I'll repeat that. Number one group dying in this country. Young white men from rural communities, mostly, with lost hope. It's an opioid addiction, but it's not about the drugs. The drugs are just a gateway for somebody with lost hope. Because an addiction is a response it's a coping mechanism, a response to an emotion you can't handle. So they don't believe in the future. Well, that's dangerous and not good for the health of the country. So we're not just talking about black and brown urban kids.
That's right.
25% of my offices are in rural communities. We need to reach poor white families who feel frustrated that no one's listening to them, no one's paying attention to them, and they're feeling that they got to riot at the ballot box. That's not healthy. So everybody needs this. By the way, in the 1960s, the second Reconstruction, if you might remember, Dr. King had pivoted to economics because the biggest group of poverty then and now was poor whites. We're all in this thing together. So this is a business plan that we've got to solve for the country. Because young people drive new ideas, young people drive movements, people are idealistic, people drive new technology. You called me, reached out to me about financial literacy to partner. I said on the same conference, I hijacked the conversation and said I wanted you to be my first partner on AI. We're going to announce that, I think, today. So stay tuned for that announcement. So it's all about relationship capital. It's all about connective tissue. What are the 2 or 3 things that you want this group to go back to their corporate offices thinking about that's different from what they might have been thinking about boys and girls, big brothers and big sisters and boys and girls clubs and 100 black men is here. But all these organizations, they have these traditional views of what nonprofits do. You are leading the charge of a group of nonprofits that think differently and nonprofit leaders. What do you want these leaders to think about? And then leaders think about what question you want to ask him about how we might be able to bring his plan and your plan a little closer.
And real quick, 70% of the organizations in our network, in Big Brothers Big Sisters Network, serve rural communities.
70%?
70%.
Wow, I did not know
communities,
that.
Rural communities, right? But it's just to echo what you just said. This is all of us, right? This is not one culture, it's not one race, not one demographic. It's all of us. And it's going to take all of us to be able to solve it and the challenge. But let me go back to what you just asked, right? I said something about like changing this equation, and I'll just say it like really quickly. When we were founded, 120, so we're celebrating 120 years this year as a mission and as an organization. We were founded, a lot of people don't know this, we were founded as an alternative innovation to the juvenile justice system, right?
Wow.
Turn of the 20th century. So kids were being sent through the justice system, and a court clerk said, what if we could do this differently? What if we could think about innovation in a very different way? And instead of sending kids through the justice system, what if we match them up with a mentor, right? It was a radical idea then, right? So the idea of being radical in a very innovative way to think about how do we change up systems so that systems can really help and create access, because it turned the system of kids who were immigrants, kids who were on the street impoverished, who were hungry, and it gave them not just the empowerment of a connection with relationships, but it was using and saying we can leverage these young people to help contribute to our society. I want you to see young people not just as the future. I want you to see them as today, right? They are a solve for what we are doing today. So how we think about empowering them and connection and relationships matters. I want you to think about the work that you can do and what your company can do, and to think that your company has power. And that power represents a way that is far beyond. I'm certainly an organization that relies on investment and fueling investment and financial, but anytime I come to the table, I always talk about plus, 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 right? So one is, when you think about your company, where are all the various ways that you can go plus, plus, plus that creates value? So it's a value-driven conversation. So when your company comes to the table, is the value equation about the investment, the purpose, the PR, and the community that you create in your community? Absolutely. Is the value about your employees and how much they get engaged and how they stay engaged and how they stay retained in your company? Absolutely. Is the value about the idea of how you look at what your consumers and your customers? Right now, we are actually running a campaign in Macy's, right, for the holiday season, and we've raised $13 million over 3 years. Why is that important? Because if Macy's was in here today, what they would tell you is that that campaign has been just as important to how we drive our business during a holiday season where we're trying to compete, because we have a differentiator in how we talk about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So we're in their parade, we're in their advertising, we're integrated, but it's not just we're doing a good thing for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They see a value proposition. So I want the conversations around in boardrooms and corporate tables about nonprofits, about purpose work, to be one about value-driven equation. That doesn't delete the idea that we're all good people, right? I assume you're good people. The idea is that if we're going to think about young people in this country, if we only think about it in the charitable view and the charitable sense of that word, we are creating a deficit for young people and not really valuing them as the assets that they are. Last thing I'll say about young people as well, that I think is really important for this discussion, if you think about where they are right now entering this workforce. So 75% of kids, we just did a survey, a comprehensive survey with Harris Poll. 75% of young adults, 18 to 25, don't understand and don't know, don't feel confident to be able to navigate the workforce today, right? That's not news to you, right? But when you dig down and they say, what are some of the core reasons of why? There are two big things that come up, and that's why I'm so proud of the partnership we're building. The first one they talked about was financial instability, right? And so much of it is generational in so many different communities. The second, mentorship. I don't have someone who can help me or to provide guidance or exposure. I know that there are complex problems. I know there are big problems in our world and in our country. But what we try to do and what we try to keep focus on is that in anything that's complex, just like 120 years ago when one person raised their hand and said, there's a complex problem going on, let's do one thing to change it, right? I can make change. And what I always try to say to people is that you have power in your company, in your community, in your family to make change. Because the idea of becoming one in the collective always starts with one person, right? So we need people who see that their individual power can be that same type of power of somebody who said to my mom, I am going to call her because her son got in trouble down the street, and then make sure that he's taken care of. And his son, because he was put in the right direction, to be in a position to impact millions of people today. That's the power that each of us have in our communities and our workplaces.
You know, you got preaching honest from your dad and your granddad. We actually did run out of time. I see Brian Betts over there telling me to wrap it up.